Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Schaefer Stock Market Podcast. I am Josh Selway, talking to you again. We have a lot of interesting names that I want to talk about this week, some things we've been looking at over at Schaefer's Investment Research. So let's jump right into those. And the first name I want to talk about this week is Callaway Golf, ticker ELY. Now, Callaway Golf, more known for its merchandise, apparel, golf equipment, etc. But this week, the stock was in focus because of an analyst note that called out Callaway Golf's investment in TopGolf. Now, if you're not familiar, TopGolf is a growing game. It has these nice facilities, these big venues. You go there, and I'm pretty sure you can drink and do different things with your friends, bring in large groups of people, and you golf. It's like a golf mini game, sort of set up like a driving range, but I believe you can hit scores for different points. I don't know exactly how it all works. I've never done it, but I've had many people say, hey, you have to go do this. This is a lot of fun. They're opening more and more locations across the country. I know there's I believe a few now in Ohio. I could be wrong about that, but I've heard a lot of buzz about TopGolf in recent years. And Callaway Golf actually originally invested, according to Raymond James here, in TopGolf back in around 2006. A few $1 million they put in there. I believe it was around $10 million or so they initially invested in TopGolf. And just based on the last projected value for TopGolf in 2017, Callaway Golf's position in that company would be around $290 million. So according to Raymond James, that is not being priced in accurately to Callaway Golf's stock price. And specifically, they're considering the fact that 9% of Callaway Golf's float is controlled by JANA Partners, which is an activist fund there, an activist investor that may push for changes and try to maximize that shareholder return. So what Raymond James is positing here is that Callaway Golf essentially cashes out somewhat of that position in TopGolf, uses those funds, those massive increase from that investment to fund future endeavors, potential growth avenues there for the company, which could lift the stock price going forward here. So Callaway Golf, last seen trading around $19 at the end of 2018. If you just do a 1 year chart here, you'll see the stock got up to around $24 per share, fell off a cliff heading into 2019, eventually got down all the way below $15. It was chopping for a bit on the charts, got down below 15 again around May, but it has recovered somewhat, taken out the 320-day moving average. That is one of those obscure moving averages, long-term moving averages that we like to look at. That moving average had been acting as a stiff ceiling from June through September, just a few sessions ago. But this bull note from Raymond James has Callaway Golf breaking out of that technical resistance there on the charts, suggesting that more upside could be coming. The shares briefly spiked in early August, but topped out right near that round $20 level. So that'll be the next area to watch here for Callaway Golf. But just interesting to note that Callaway Golf got in early on the game there for TopGolf, growing in popularity substantially here, of something to watch going forward for sure, to see if Callaway does in fact exit that investment and to see how they use that cash to fund potential growth paths going forward as well. But I should also point out here that there's heavy short interest on Callaway Golf, actually accounting for about 14% of the float, and that would roughly take about 9 sessions to cover based on average trading volumes there. So if a breakout is occurring here for Callaway Golf, short covering could help propel the shares to an even higher price. Another interesting name here that I wanted to call out is Overstock.com, ticker OSTK. So Overstock obviously was this online marketplace for various items, and then they transitioned to this blockchain business to focus on the growth in blockchain, and they're investing in several different areas there. And one of them is this token platform T0, which just partnered with an entertainment financing company. This is the press release here. T0, a global leader in blockchain innovation for capital markets, announces that it is partnered with Blockflix LLC, the first blockchain entertainment financing company. The goal here is to provide technology services to tokenize Blockflix's finance operations for the entertainment business. So this is kind of interesting here, looking to potentially use blockchain here in the entertainment industry. And Overstock has actually been rallying higher in recent sessions here, and we noted this in our midday market check newsletter. You can sign up for free to that. In the middle of every day, we're highlighting some unusual options trading and some of the best and worst stocks across the street. And we took note of this breakout in Overstock.com, which is actually has, as of this recording on Thursday, September 12th, that stock is pacing for a 7th straight consecutive gain. And you can see here it bounced from that $15 level around the start of September, and it's just been rocketing higher, now approaching the site where it topped out about a month ago, in fact. So if it can break out of this level, we're seeing something interesting. Definitely a stock to watch here is Overstock.com, breaking out to about the $26 area, which would be its highest close, looks like, in almost a year. So this comes after the shares were trading all the way down around $9 per share back in June. So pretty big upside here for Overstock.com. I believe that they got rid of their chief executive earlier in the year. So I've had some interesting turnover there, but the stock has been taking off, and definitely just from all angles an interesting company to follow. Another name here that's providing some interesting price action is Universal Display, ticker OLED, OLED. They are the display maker for various electronics, phones, TVs. And that stock just last week hit an all-time high around $230. I remember it was either last year or year before, this stock jumped to all-time highs and then fell by more than half, sold off precipitously, and now, it had been rallying back, as I said, to all-time highs just last week, but now it is pulling back sharply once again. Its all-time high was around $230, and the stock was lasting around $178 per share. So that type of move in just a matter of days. And in fact, we wrote a blog about it over on schaefersresearch.com this morning, where the stock was down just 7.7% today, and that was after a downgrade at Susquehanna, which cut the equities rating to negative from neutral and set a low $130 price target. So some very volatile price action there from Universal Display. And as far as the options activity goes, options traders in recent weeks have been quite bullish. We look at the data from the major options exchanges, and the 10-day call put volume ratio was over 3, showing that 3 long calls had crossed for every put. So very strong evidence there. The options traders have been bullish on this name, so they could be hurting today and in recent days from this sharp pullback after very, very strong price action from Universal Display. The stock has now pulled back quite significantly. Another name I wanted to call out here, we covered last year, I believe, in the podcast, and this is the Chinese video company, iQIYI, ticker IQ. Some people relate it as the Chinese Netflix, but regardless, I just wanted to call this out because this chart for iQIYI is very interesting. We wrote about this in August, and we're just wrote about it again this week. The stock had broken out earlier this week. It wasn't exactly clear what that was from, potentially just from the positive trade developments between the U.S. and China. Sometimes when there's this upbeat attitude towards trade between those two countries, these Chinese stocks tend to do better. But the stock broke out, jumping almost 7%, roughly 7% in a day. But as we quickly pointed out, iQIYI's 200-day moving average on several occasions this year, and we provided a chart in our write-up on the website, and you can see it clear as day, has provided stiff resistance there in the charts. And even today, the shares are trying to gain again, and that 200-day is just acting as a strong lid on that stock. So if we see a breakout there, that could signal more upside is ahead. A lot of times when stocks take out technical resistance like that has been so clear and evident in the trading, and then they burst above it, that could be a sign of more upside coming. And definitely wanted to call out for a key, because a lot of times technical data points like this aren't exactly clear. They're just part of a larger picture, but sometimes they're perfectly clear, which could suggest the type of investors that are behind this stock could be more technical leading, tracking this type of stuff, more heavily reliant on algorithms, potentially, whatever the case may be. But the technical picture here for IKEA, ticker IQ, is pretty clear. And as I said, there's a chart on the site for you to check out. Want to touch on this post-earnings move from Aurora Cannabis, ticker ACB, one of these names that are often brought up in the marijuana stock conversations. And the stock today is moving lower after earnings. The big thing here was simply revenue was just not there for the company, fell below expectations. The obviously not selling as much cannabis as they expected in the recreational markets. And one of the things I was reading about this is that this could be a result of higher prices on the quote-unquote black markets. Of course, these are still being mixed in with these legal markets where recreational marijuana is legal. So that's an interesting dynamic there, where you had marijuana illegal so long, obviously in so many areas, and still illegal in most of the country, but that's mixing in and hurting these companies that are supposed to be taking advantage of legal marijuana states and even countries as far as Canada goes, of course, where a lot of these marijuana companies, including Aurora Cannabis, are located. But still, these black market marijuana industries are hurting the leading companies on the legal marijuana front. So that could be a trend to watch going forward as well. Aurora Cannabis traded up around the $10 mark back in March and has since fallen down to below $6 per share, last seen at $5.87 per share. All right, a couple names here I want to throw out there because they popped up in our internal data as names to monitor, and one of those is Sony, ticker SNE. Sony has been rising on the charts actually pretty impressively in recent months. The stock has been gaining. Today, we wrote about it, and it was actually on pace for its best close in almost a year. The shares are around $60 per share, up around 25% in 2019. And what's interesting to note, we've seen a lot of these signals lately, is that Sony is one of these stocks that is trading near 52-week high, but also has low volatility expectations. According to our Schaefer's Volatility Index, the SVI, and there have actually been 7 similar signals to this in the past 5 years for Sony, and those signals have resulted in an average 1-month gain of over 7%. So this would suggest that Sony could be a good momentum play here, especially if you're looking to go long with even in the money options for Sony. But that's just one signal, of course, but the price action there has been strong. And as I said, trying to carve out that highest close in roughly a year for Sony. And call traders have been active on that name. We reported here that call open interest is near an annual high. There has been very heavy interest in the October 60 call, which is, of course, now in the money call option, and then right behind that is the October 65 call, and then again the 5750 call in the October series. So call traders all over Sony, and that could potentially be a good call there. And another name that we just wrote about is Caterpillar, ticker CAT. Of course, that name is in constant focus with all the trade drama. It's very sensitive to trade headlines, but we're reporting here over on the site, we wrote about Caterpillar. You need to watch out for the 320-day moving average. I mentioned that earlier as a moving average we like to look at, and that comes into play here. We have some data on what that can mean for the stock from our senior quantitative analyst, Rocky White. Be sure to check that out, especially because there were some other reasons there that you may be wary of Caterpillar as well. And speaking of Rocky White, we need to at least throw out there this study he ran this week, because there's been this, if you haven't seen it yet, this interest in the fact that investors have been moving from growth/momentum stocks into more traditional value stocks. That this is a rotation. A lot of people have been paying attention on Wall Street, and Rocky just broke down some data about how you may want to trade that type of reversal going by the growth value ratio. And that, of course, was in our indicator of the week, which you can get every single week from Rocky White. It comes out every Wednesday morning. Go check that out on the website if you haven't already. Interesting data there. The title, How to Play a Growth Value Ratio Reversal. Highly recommend that for sure over on schaefersresearch.com. But I'm going to leave it right there for this week's show. Folks, I want to thank you all for listening so much. Everyone who's been reviewing the show, all positive reviews so far. I appreciate that, but don't be afraid to let us know what we can do better. Please subscribe and review wherever you are listening. And otherwise, check out Schaefer's over on Twitter, StockTwits, Facebook, and Instagram, or just go straight to schaefersresearch.com. Check out our newsletters, our trading services, all of that good stuff. But until next week, folks, this is Josh Salway. I will talk to you guys soon.